Hi guys, in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to move a humanoid model as well as assigning them to a specific area. To move a model, you will first need a model. In your Roblox Studio, insert part and make a cube shape. Press Ctrl D on your keyboard to make a copy and press Ctrl Shift and alternate and make the size smaller. Name the larger part to head and the smaller part to humanoid part. Now you can select both of them and group them as model. Insert your model, insert humanoid, and in your model properties, find primary part and set it to humanoid part. Now you can select on humanoid part and head. Go to model, under constraint, click on weld. Rename the model to cube and put a script inside of your cube. If you click on run, you can see that the cube is jittering. This is because the hip height of the cube is too low. But if you were to change the hip height of the cube and it is too high, the cube will float. So you will need to find the correct hip height. To do that, you can use a formula. You will need the humanoid, the head, and the humanoid part of the cube. This is the formula for the correct hip height. Now if you click on run, you can see that the cube is no longer jittering. Now to move the cube, since the cube is a humanoid object, you can use the move to function. So under your server script service, insert a script. Start by declaring the cube and get the humanoid. Now you can use the humanoid move to function. You can see that the move to function accepts vector3 as its argument, so you can do vector3.new and pass your coordinate. As you can see, the cube is moving toward the coordinate. If you want to make the cube continuously moving, you can use the while loop. First set a range, then get the random number for x and z coordinate between the range. Do the same for the z coordinate. Now you can pass it to the move to function. And wait until finish. Now if you run the game, the cube will continuously moving. You can also adjust the speed. As you can see, the cube moving continuously. Now, what if you have an area and you want the cube to roam only in the area? You will need to create an area for the cube to move in. If you look at the script under the server script service, you can see that you will need to find the range for x and z coordinate where you want the cube to move to. Now if we go back to our workspace, if we imagine that this is the x-axis and this is the z-axis, we will need to find the value of x in this position and x in this position. We also need to find the value of z in this position and in this position. We can get the position of any points in the workspace by placing an object inside of the workspace. For example, if I were to put attachment inside of the workspace, for example in this corner and in this corner, you can get the position of the attachment. So the first attachment will represent the value of x1 and z1. The second attachment will represent the value of x2 and z2. Now if I replace the value of x and z from the attachment inside of my script, we can see that the object will only move inside of the area. Because we use method.random, make sure that the smaller value will always be in the front of the larger one. Now if I click on run, you can see that the cube will move inside of the area and it can only move within this area. There is actually a better way to get the position of the objects inside of workspace. If you look at the script under the server script service, we can see that these two values are hard-coded. If I were to change the position of this attachment from here to here, and I want the cube only to move within these areas, I will also need to manually change the value inside of my script. And even though attachments are really easy to use, for example, you can just select it and click on any spot that you want it to be, it is really hard to handle. If I put folder inside of workspace, Roblox won't allow me to put these attachments inside of the folder. So instead of using the attachment, we can use paths instead. So delete the attachment, insert path, and change the size path to 0.1 in each side. Then you can put the paths in the corner. Press Ctrl D to copy the path and put it in the corner of the opposite side. Now go back to your script. Select on both of the paths and your area and group them as folder. Inside the folder, select on both of the paths and group them as another folder. Name this folder to moving points. This one is your area. Now we will need the paths, so first we will need to get the area folder. Then we need the moving points folder. Now we need an empty table to store the position of each path. Now we can get the children for the moving points folder. We want to insert into points table the value of i.position. Now if I print the points table, we should get the position of the paths as our output. In our while loop, we can declare a new variable. Replace it in our randomX and randomZ variable. The x value should be points.x and points2.x. The z value should be the same, but replace the x with z. Now if I click on run, we will get an error because if we use method random, the first value will need to be smaller than the second one. We can fix that by using a simple if condition. If minimum x is greater than maximum x, then we swap the value. The same goes with the z value. Now if I click run, the cube will move within the position of the path. And if I change the position of the path, it will only move within the area. So it is dynamically changing. Every time I click run, we can see that the cube will move from its original position to this area. So we need to change our script so that it will spawn the cube instead of the area first before moving it. So first we need to change the location of the cube from workspace to replicated storage. And inside our script, we can insert a module script and copy everything from here to our module script. remove this two line and also this line. I will change the module script name to cube, and this will return cube. So first, we will need to create a function to get the random position within this area. We already did that, which is this code right here. So we can copy it and create a function. Cube.get random position. Paste the code. This function will require points as its parameter, and it will return the selected C-frame. Now once we get the position within the area, we can start to spawn the cube. So I'll create a function called cube.spawn. First, we will need to get the cube from the replicated storage. Local cube with small c is equal to game.getService replicated storage.cube. We also need to clone it and then give it a name. And the parent will be put a folder inside your area called NPC. So this will be the parent for the cube. So area.npc. Now you can set the starting point for the cube. So you can do cube pivot2 and call this function. So it will pivot to anywhere within this area. Now we can return the cube. So now we can create another function called cube.main. And we can spawn the cube here. So local cube is equals to spawn. This will spawn the cube. Then we can get the humanoid and paste this while function. So once you spawn the cube, then you move the cube. Now we will need the selected position. Selected C-frame, and every loop we will get the new value for the C-frame. So select the C-frame dot now instead of passing the vector tree, we can pass selected C-frame dot position. Now in our main script, we will need to require the cube. So local cube is equal to require script.cube, and we can call the main function. So cube.main, and now we can run the game. You can see that the cube spawn here and it will start moving. We can also adjust the speed here. So humanoid walk speed. If you made it this far, that's actually part 2 for this tutorial. In the next part, I will show you how to move the humanoid object within the area with this shape. Thank you for watching.